Blitzers, Nerf Clan, it's Ronan. Welcome back to the channel. Continuing our discussion on big, huge arguments in the world of Blitz. Today we're tackling a couple of things with one video. We're looking at the T55a, and I'm going to try to address the question of whether you should spend money or gold to get the tank. It's back in stores. And then second of all, addressing what cannon to use on the T54, because actually the two questions are somewhat interlaced. We're going to tackle those together momentarily, but first we have 3 replays today. This first one is myself driving with the one, the only Atomic. He is in his Vickers CR, and we had a great battle here. But I'm going to chat a little bit about the T55, and it's a tank that on paper, and I'll show you the paper, looks great. It makes sense, and it's going to make a lot of sense for you to buy. But it's a tank I would not recommend buying. It doesn't, to me, make a ton of sense to own this tank, and I'm going to highly recommend it. And I own it. I paid, I think, $14.99 for it. I think it's now a little bit cheaper. It's either 10 bucks or something, but around $10. But I would just tell you that you are so much better off getting the T54 than this tank. The tank is good. The T55a is a good, solid tank. It's not that it's not a good tank. By the way, there's an E100 doing nothing. Really, we won in spite of this idiot over here. I was actually doing a favorite thing is I was trying to type this, but couldn't, as I'm protecting our AFK here. But the reality is, you really are better off just driving the T54. And that's the bottom line for the T55a. You don't need any more than that. Why? Well, you do have the best of both worlds in terms of a cannon. There is no thing, and this, I asked, we had a clan survey, and I asked the clan what cannon you're using. So I'm showing the 2 separate cannons there on the T54. The majority of the clan are using the cannon that is actually there in the middle, which is the cannon that is leading to the D10-2C, that's leading to the OBJ-140. And what you can see there in comparison to those is that it is the better cannon in terms of pen when calibrated. You have to calibrate this kind. If you calibrate it with heat, it will actually it'll have better numbers because of the calibrated nature of the shell. So you actually get 297 pen. Obviously, it's the same alpha. Comparing the 254. So between the two, it seems like the clan is saying the D10-2C is the cannon to go with. Not everywhere, but what you do get with the T55a is you actually get the velocity of that cannon, and you get the alpha of the other cannons, so you get the best of both worlds. So right there on the cannon front, they did give the T55a that. They also gave it slightly, so slightly higher damage. It has 50 extra hit points. I think that was in an effort to balance out the armor, which, as I will point out to you, is the issue with the T55. And ultimately, what you get with the T55a is a touch more mobility that you will never notice, and it's cannon based if you're using the other cannon for the T54. And then on top of that, you get this awesome cannon with the same velocity as the T62a gun, essentially, but with the aim time and accuracy of the OBJ-140. However, again, the cannon for the cannon for the T54 is just not. It doesn't need improvement. The T54 could always use improvement, maybe in gun depression or whatever you want to call a slight more mobility. But you don't need an enhanced gun here. I think that you have a good enough gun for that tank. And the T54, where it really does shine. There's a Sheridan just sleeping there. I hope I popped him with HE. I did, and didn't get full pen. That was probably stupid. And notice I got hit by that OBJ. I went to this one spot. I do this way too much, and when I'm playing in mines, you got to remember the TDs can shoot you from that. I always forget that as an idiot. By the way, Atomic and I do clear this battle relatively easily, so don't you worry, we do prevail. And it was actually a battle that lasted a really long time in mines, of just holding the top, But back to the cannons, you just don't need a better cannon. What you need that's better with this bad chat, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. What you need with this cannon, this tank that's better, is front armor, and that's what the T54 had. The T54 is unique because it has nearly 3,000 DPM, and just an incredible amount of front plane armor that just bounces things, and its ability to wiggle to bounce shots is unbelievable, even versus tier 10s, certainly versus tier 9s, and then obviously when you take a T54 versus tier 8s. And that's why I don't notice with this tank, with the T55a, when I go against other tier 8s. I just noticed it's a slightly better gun. What I would highly recommend if you're in the mood to buy a gold tier 8 is to go with the 30 ER, the French medium. That tank has almost no armor, but it's got a terrific turret. And that tank is actually a much better, and it's got -10 gun depression as well. That tank makes sense to me. The T55 doesn't. So wrapping things up here, you can see Atomic and I whittled them down. This OBJ 704 played a good game. He kept hidden most of the time, but we just did not bleed. I somehow managed to stay alive after my initial shenanigans. And Atomic actually had a massive game here as well. We are paired up again later on, but I compared the details, and so again on paper, the 55A, as we're about to jump into the armor, the 55A looks good. It's got the best of both worlds in terms of gun. It's got 50 more hit points. You know, why isn't this OP beast of a tank? And I'll answer that question in a minute. Pretty ordinary game there, 3 kills, 2,700 damage. You saw Atomic had a great game as well. We enjoyed that one. Atomic and I both enjoyed kind of outlasting him. Speaking of outlasting, let's take a look at the armor. The top plate armor difference is 20 millimeters. It's about 230 or so in the 54 versus 210 or so the 55A. The lower plate is a bigger difference. It's 210 with the 54 and about 170 with the 55A. That's a huge difference, especially on the lower plate. The sides are the same. Side of the turret, tiny bit more armor in the 55A. The rear is the same, tiny bit more armor on the 55A in the rear turret. I promise you, the sides and the rear of the turret do not matter. Overall, the 54A has much better armor, and that makes a huge difference in playing just about every single tank in this game. That being said, if you own a T55 or you did decide to buy it, or you're still in the market because you can't permanently enrich a T54, a couple of games here to highlight to whet your, to show you what this tank can do. It is a good tank, as I said before. It's certainly not a bad tank. I still will play mine occasionally. I will admit, though, that when I play it, I always think to myself, why don't I just play the T54? So here we got Rebel. I asked Rebel to help me, and there's not a lot of footage on this tank to run a couple of matches. So Rebel here is in Normandy, and his team quickly went to the decap. They actually cleared somebody really quickly. And you see how Rebel is using the tank is just like the T54. It is nice and mobile and is able to get shots off, and he quickly helps clear the FV4202. They do have one cap, but it's already 1 cap versus 2. But you can see this game is going quickly into Rebel's team. Switch to the heat. You saw the difference in heat there. I hope you did, between heat and AP pen there on the front of the 268. It's a big difference, and that's one nice thing about this. If you do own the tank, the cannon, he's got great pen. It's actually your choice of whether to calibrate or not. I don't think you really need to calibrate this cannon. I think it's got enough pen. I don't know whether Rebel calibrates it or not, but you've got a lot of pen here, or enough pen, I'd say, that you shouldn't have to run. You could run the rammer and get the DPM higher. You need the higher DPM if you're facing any tier 10 mediums with 3,400 or 3,500 DPM. You don't want to be caught off guard, especially with this tank that has armor that is not anything like that of a T62a, or obviously an Object 140. Or 121. Rebel is quickly using the mobility of the tank here, and you can just kind of see how easy it is to make shots. He turns on, I think this next shot is auto aim. I watched it a couple of times. I can't tell. Must be auto aim the way he looked away and hit it. Again, those PC aimers. He does take a big hit there, or a good hit there from the CR, but this game's already wrapped up. It's a 5 against 3 at this point. Rebel does some nice work here on the IS-8, and one thing you'll see with the accuracy of this tank and the mobility is he is able to use it even with a -10 gun depression. One of the things I did when I got the T54, I watched a Bushka video on it, and I encourage you guys to do that. Bushka has some good videos. They're old nowadays, I guess, but they used to play this tank, the 54, nonstop. It was one of the original tanks from this. So look at this really nice mobility, beautiful backup there to get the IS-8 to make him rotate his turret more. Rebel did not get this kill there. It was stolen, but doesn't matter. The game is essentially over, and very quickly, without too much exertion, Rebel is able to get a lot of damage done. 25-55 damage, MC2 in a nice game. The last game we have coming up is myself and Atomic again. I just played this to get the videos. Nice stats there for Rebel. We are 4 to spare. Atomic and I pushed to the A side, and this is a tier 10 battle or 3 tier 10, so I guess you can call it tier 9 battle. But we quickly pushed over there, and sorry for all that. I'm flicking around, I guess, looking at things. And if you look early on here, this is to me one of my classic spots with a medium without gun depression. I'm not going to be up there spotting. And we faced a really strong tune here, I think with Pincer and Kronos or something. And I have no idea what this guy from Pincer was thinking. He pushed right into the open, and Atomic and I cleared him in about 4 shots in maybe 30 seconds or less. That probably, I just have absolutely no idea why someone would drive a waffle to the middle of Fort Despair. Maybe he thought our entire team was there, and he didn't think about the mediums. He didn't count his tanks. But if you're choosing to drive a waffle in Fort Despair, I mean, I guess you can't choose the map, but if you have a waffle in Fort Despair, don't run it out towards the ACAP until you know exactly where everyone else. That was actually fantastic. And not only that, by clearing him, you can see Atomic and I are just kind of sitting here farming. Yeah, he was with his tune mate was this guy from Purple, and he probably played it a little bit more conservatively with the Yag Tiger. But again, at this point, clearing that waffle really appropriately nerfed their positioning, and they're now all clustered at C facing our heavies. So Atomic and I wanted to get a run on the Yag and the T57 heavy, who were somewhat isolated, focusing our WZ 111, and we rushed in there. The 111 went down, but I was kind of following Atomic's lead here. Atomic knows what he's doing. And we quickly dispatched and got behind the Yag Tiger. We knew we were going to take a shot or two from the 57, but clearing this guy, he's also a player from Purple, we knew would aid the team. The guy from the 57 does rush me. I think he was actually going after Atomic. I'm not sure. He hit me on the way there, and then he hit me again pretty hard there. But at this point, I think his clip was gone. Atomic hits him hard. That might have been a Hesh shot. And then now his clip's gone. Now he shoots Atomic. And then he gives Atomic and I basically all the time we need to unload on him. One thing you notice with the tank, this gun depression on the 55 and the 54 is nothing special. So we definitely had our work cut out for us. So shot him there, cleared the 57, and then the end of the day here, this is just working on this at 70 VK72. Appropriate with our clan tradition, I rushed in there to secure the kill. Atomic pounds him once, I pound him again. So again, don't buy the tank unless you really, unless you're a collector or something. I would stick to the T54. Enjoy the tank, lose some credits, who cares? You can make them with other tanks. Thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe to the channel.